Hey guys, I figured I'd just do a quick little video about my latest winter project, the Eico. So basically what this is a rehousing project from a very old pedal that I had laying around, well, the guts of it anyways, because I was already experimenting with it. It's old beat up DOD YJM308 overdrive pedal, which is now in here, right? So the guts to this, well, you'll see. There's plenty of more guts. And then I broke it out. As you can see, this already had a hole in it. I had already been messing with this pedal before, so it didn't really bother me too much to do it. But I've been really wanting to turn this capacitor decade box into something really fun and cool, because it's a useless device that's been sitting on a shelf. This is a very early model. This is model 1180, a very early version of it. It's at serial number 1288. Has the blue hammer tone finish. This is, from what I can tell, a relatively rare box. The newer ones are just gray. They literally just gray everywhere you look, just like sheet metal. I don't know if they cheaped out or what happened, but this hammer tone, this beautiful hammer tone finish, it's very, very early. I'd imagine, I'm thinking it's early 60s, maybe late 50s, early 60s. Probably around in that range-ish. I mean, the old, these types of chicken head knobs, very 50s to me. You know, that is, so yeah, I think it's like late 50s, early 60s. Before they went to the uglier, more plain version of this. Eico, I believe these were kits, or no, I'm not sure if these are kits or not. It's not a Heath kit. I think these came from factory made. But anyways, so yes, so I took the overdrive pedal, put it in here, but totally did it all completely different. Broke out a couple of different things on the board. Really, it's a very simple circuit. So there's not a lot that you can do with it. I mean, there's a lot you can do with it, I suppose, but as far as trying to keep it not super complicated, a good portion of that circuit really heavily relies on the clipping circuit past the op amp. So this uses a 4558 op amp, one half of it actually, to drive directly into a diode clipping circuit, right? So the diode clipping circuit retains a lot of the characteristics for the tone that comes out of this. Versus like the Tube Screamer, well, it's also very similar to a Tube Screamer because they both use the same op amp chip. But I think the Tube Screamer uses one half of the op amp chip to slam into the other half of the op amp chip and overdrive that, versus this. But it also has a clipping circuit too. So, and plus the Tube Screamer has like some buffering circuits and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different, but same heart. It has a 4558 op amp chip and a diode clipping circuit. But anyways, so I focus more on the diode clipping circuit. And basically, this had just a very simple silicon diode clipping circuit. I think when I pulled those out, if I remember correctly, they tested around, what was the forward voltage? So forward voltage is how much voltage it takes to break through the barrier of the diode to force electricity through the other side. Because diodes only allow voltage to flow into one direction unless you apply so much voltage to the other side that it breaks through that barrier. So think of it like a dam. You know, if you're shooting a stream of water at a dam and you shoot it hard enough, it's going to break the dam. Same idea. And that's what creates distortion, because you have two in opposite directions, and they clip each other, and it overdrives it. So that's basically how it works to a degree, and there's probably more to it. But and also onto that same circuit with the two diodes is also a capacitor. So these three items really influence the overall gain and tone characteristics of this device, of the tone coming out of the overdrive. Really, the op amp chip is really just boosting it into that clipping circuit. So took the old diodes out that were in there, the old stock ones, and on this switch right here, you can go back and forth between two different types of clipping circuits. The first one is a vintage Russian diode set, very early diode. I want to say it's very like late 60s, early 70s. So kind of like in that first, second generation of diodes. And it has a forward voltage clipping of around 1.5 volts, I think like 1.5, and they match, like they were like on to the point, perfect 1.6 volts, something like that. They matched absolutely perfect. So beautiful matched pair, and matched pairs tend to have a smoother characteristic to the gain. And the higher the forward voltage, the harder you have to push the pedal or the input signal to clip it. basically. So the lower the clipping voltage, the easier it goes into clipping mode, right? So so the top one, I believe, is the two diodes, two LED diodes, Russian ones, and it's beautiful. It sounds great, really high gain, but smooth. And then in the other one, you go into a mismatched pair, but at a much lower clipping voltage. So it's a asymmetrical clipping circuit, silicon. I'm tired. One was like 300 millivolts, and the other one was like around 800. So it was quite a difference, but still on a lower side than the other one. That's what I wanted, to have a very different characteristic to it, and that's exactly what you get with these switches. Hit it out of the ballpark, I think, with how it changes the tone. This now, so this is the diode, so you change the diodes. This changes that capacitor value that goes along the side of the diodes. What that does is that allows certain frequencies to pass through, and it changes the tone, frequency tones of the clipping. In fact, some of these combinations really calm down the gain, give it a little smoother tone, really dull it down to where it's almost like a clone, like it's almost like just pushing it. So there's a lot of interesting differences that you can get out of basically 5 different positions here. So was that like 15 different selections, right? Something like that. But then, of course, when you combine it with your gain, the neat thing too about this too is like, it doesn't, like, you do get a super gain boost like past like the 9. So it does, like, it really ramps up like 8.5, 9, where it's a little bit smoother, going from like 0 to 7 or something like that. Volume again works just fine as well. Does exactly what you expect it to do. Of course, we got the beautiful aqua green light up there, which is kind of like my signature. This is all being powered by my Sony AC P210 micro rack power unit that came out of a studio. That thing is absolutely the best pedal power supply I've ever seen in my life. Puts out 9.01 volts right at each single one of those. Absolutely perfect. Smooth as can be, as clean as can be. Sorry, getting back to this. So let's take a quick peek in the internals. Maybe just so I don't accidentally shock something or just some cross. All right, so sorry, I'm totally talking to myself here. So here we go. Here's the internals. It's busy. A lot of stuff going on. Have a very long power pigtail so that it can be, it can also be disconnected, but you can also just take it out and work on it as well without actually disconnecting it right there at the GST connector. Only got 2 GST connectors in here. But because I really want to keep everything as vintage as possible, but especially on the power rail, that was very important to be able to disconnect it so that you can work on this separately as necessary. So yeah, so here the diode clipping circuit right here as you switches between the 2 different versions of it. As you can see, very, very, I mean, these are absolutely ancient. In fact, this was has like a cataract to it, but they match. I mean, they are like perfect. This one has like a little mini one in here and a much bigger one, again, to get that mismatched pair. But again, they both have very, very different characteristics to their overall tone. Again, that's one switch. And the other side we got here, you can see we have the original in here, which is a 0.001. Then you have a 0.015 and a 0.1. So big steps each way, each selection that you go. Again, and then it combines itself with that clipping circuit up here, and you get all kinds of different tones, which is super rad. Everything in here had to be hand done, handmade, hand wired. It's all super stiff wire. There's all the wire in here is about 70 years old. This is all new old stock. This board is suspended in here with the wiring, basically. It's cradled in there with a little bit of foam down there. But again, everything had to be kind of improvised as I went. The circuit for the lights was all custom made. This is a totally overkill 2-watt Allen Bradley. It's just super stiff onto this very super stiff, which is also about this board right here. This little my power rail is probably a good 70 years old as well. I had to be cleaned all up and redone, but it bolted absolutely. I mean, it was perfect right here. Right here, no mods needed. This was all custom made. This little tower was hand built. to suspend the giant LED over that. Again, it's a 2-watt Allen Bradley as your dropping resistor for the LED. And then each one of these brown, like gumdroppy looking, candy looking things are the capacitors within the circuit. There's 3 of them. These are all the original capacitors. There's a lot more in here from this, but these are the 3 ones that I valued the most for this, for each one of those sections. I think, again, there's 3 of them. So your signal is going through 3 different capacitors that were original to this device. That signal path is being influenced by, you know, God, some of this stuff is probably getting close to, 70 years old, between 50 to 70 years old at this point. Some of this stuff, again, I think this goes back to really the late 50s, early 60s. So you're talking back in the day. These Russian capacitors are from the 80s. The wiring is from the 50s. All those wirings from the 50s. LEDs, these again probably from the late 60s, early 70s. More modern, these silicones are modern. So, I mean, you have many decades in here going back and forth. And try to retain the original pigtail that was on here, a little clip, original all to it, so it can all be taken apart. And true bypass as well, because I wouldn't have any other way. But again, everything all had to be hand done. It took about 2 months to do this, and had a ball doing it. But for now, it's once it's completed, it's like it needs somebody to put it through its paces, and that somebody's definitely not me. It needs somebody else to value it more than I would. Somebody who likes boutique pedals. I mean, I love boutique pedals. What am I saying? But that's why I build them. But somebody who can really take. Whoop! I totally dropped the phone. That's fine. Somebody that can really take advantage. That has the equipment necessary. So yeah, it is for sale. All right, guys. There you go. That was the winter project. All right, take care.